Yes, something is different today. We are interviewing the one, the only, Nicky and Sila Lee. Whoop, whoop. Now, if you're like, who? Well, they're awesome. And they are the pioneers of the marriage course and the relationship courses and the family life courses. And we run the marriage course here, and they had a party the other day, and if you were here, you will see just how epic that was. But these guys are the experts on everything relationship. And you guys have been sending in your questions all week. So should we get them up here and get on with this thing? Yes. Okay, come on up. Right, I've got my timer because there are a lot of questions and we don't want to run over. So, let's just kick off. Somebody emailed us in and said the subject was, what is marriage all about? They want a vision for marriage. And you know what? I was here on Thursday when Nicky spoke to the students on SVTC just about this, and it was such a good answer. So, Nicky, do you want to kick us off?
Oh, wow. Do you want all that again, Kate? That's quite a long answer.
No, in like a little, yeah. Go for it.
Shortened version. It's so great to be here with you. We absolutely love it. This is a highlight for us, being here at HTBB all day. Sula and I have been married for a little while, and...
How long?
41 and a half years now, Kate. So... it's got a long time. And it's been a journey. It's been an exciting journey. And I think I'd say over everything else, marriage, because we're so up close to each other, we're forced to share each other's personal space. It's a place where you are forced to learn to love, or it doesn't work. And that means learning to resolve stuff, learning to forgive each other because inevitably you'll hurt each other, learning to try to remember to listen to what the other one is saying. All of these things are about seeking to grow in loving the other person.
I think one of the things that we feel passionate to communicate wherever we are is that we as Christians have an amazing model of how to love. You know, there are a lot of theories out there, there are a lot of self-help things, a lot of psychology, a lot of this, that, and the next thing. But actually, we as Christians have God's ways of loving. And he has shown us those ways in Jesus. Live a life of love, it says in Ephesians 5. Live a life of love just as Christ loved us and gave himself up for us. And I think that gives us huge confidence. But, you know, the Bible is also incredibly practical. And I think the thing that we feel we want to communicate wherever we go, and I hope this happens with the courses, with the pre-marriage, the marriage, parenting, is that we want to show that a realistic view of what it takes to build a relationship, whether that's a friendship between people who are not married, whether it's between a married couple, or whether it's parents with children, or whoever it is, but particularly about marriage, a realistic view of marriage, not a Hollywood one. You kind of got to find the one and then your soulmate and it'll all be amazing. And if it's not amazing, then you've met the wrong one. You need to basically find the right one so you part company. That's not what we mean. We mean a realistic view of marriage, but a very hopeful view of marriage. And that's the exciting thing, that of course there will be challenges. You know, none of us are going to have a sort of just plain sailing. As Nicky says, relationships are challenging because it's like holding a mirror up and saying, ooh, I'm quite selfish.
You mean sometimes I don't get it quite right?
No, I don't get it quite right. Because we think about ourselves, we think about, we're basically self-centered, self-focused. How can I work out my dreams, my plans? And then suddenly you're together with another person. But there is this amazing hope we have that we can change. And God is in the business of helping us be transformed to be more like him. So those ways of loving.
Can I just say a tiny bit of what I said on Thursday as well about, I know this is only the first question, Kate, and we've got lots more to get onto, but we probably learnt more about marriage from one single man than anybody else, and that was from a previous pope. It might surprise you. Pope John Paul II, and I remember reading one of his books where he describes marriage as the total donation of self. Marriage is about giving ourselves to each other. And as Sila says, that's not easy, it's a challenge. But this is essentially what marriage is about. And he writes about how in that regard, when a husband and a wife give themselves to each other, they become a sign of the gospel. Because
This is the bit I wanted you to say. This is so good. If you weren't listening, peep up. It did not make any sense.
And Pope John Paul II, he quotes from the New Testament. He said, Jesus at the Last Supper said, "This is my body given for you." And then Paul in Romans says, "Give your bodies as living sacrifice." And he says, see, this is what marriage is about, giving ourselves to each other. And this is what Jesus has done for us. He gives himself for us. We're to give ourselves for him. And therefore he says, every single marriage is a sign of the gospel. And the better we love each other, the more effective that sign becomes. And that puts a whole different spin on marriage. Because I think in the world generally, people think about marriage as just being about me being happy, me being fulfilled, me finding someone who'll love me really well and whom I can love. But actually, in the Bible, marriage is much, much more than that. When we see marriage as a sign of God's love for us, we help then, through that, we help people to build that relationship with God, to understand the gospel.
So marriage is a picture of something far greater than just ourselves, as well
Absolutely. You got it, Kate.
as well as the fun and excitement of you two. Okay, so if that is the case, also therefore, do you have a vision for singleness? There may be some people here who are like, no, I'm single and I feel called to be single, or I'm in singleness at the moment by choice or not. Do you have a vision for singleness?
Absolutely. It's so fascinating to me that in the Bible upholds marriage as a gift from God, and it upholds singleness as a gift from God. Both of these are valued very highly. And singleness, Jesus himself was single, and singleness does not mean in any sense being incomplete. Jesus was the most complete man who ever lived. It's not like we are looking for our other half. That's a terrible understanding of marriage. We are complete in ourselves. Single people are complete. It's through our relationship with God. Jesus had perfect relationship with his Father. He was complete in himself. And in the church, I love being part of a community in London as here, which is made up of a mixture of single and married people, interrelating with each other, giving each other different things that we can. This is what a Christian community is to be about.
But I do think that we as the church, and I think we've seen at HTB we've been there for 40-something years, and we've changed a lot over that time. But I think...
Do you mean we personally have changed a lot, or we've changed a lot at HTB?
Both.
Okay.
I mean, who can't over 40 years? Anyway, but I think in the church sometimes, one is seen as more important than the other. And I think we have to challenge that all the time. And we have to work together to uphold both single people and their calling and married people and their calling. And single people are a sign of the gospel just as much. And actually, until the coming of Christ, singleness was not really an option. I mean, you were part of a household. You couldn't survive as a single person. And it was not a kind of way of living. And particularly in the Roman Empire, basically the only thing they wanted and required was that you got into a marriage and a household, and then you had children to kind of keep the empire going, and so on and so forth. It was a profoundly Christian understanding that actually we have a calling as a single person to be in relationship with Jesus and follow him. For some, that will mean celibacy and a single way of living. For others, it will mean marriage and the challenges that come as well as the joys with both of those ways of living. And the Pope John Paul II, even as a single celibate man, he saw and understood such richness about relationship, and we've learnt such a huge amount from him. It's absolutely wonderful.
Can I say one final thing just on that, which is, it's so interesting, isn't it, that the world tends to not to value marriage in the way that the Bible does, nor to value singleness in the way that the Bible does, but to go for something right down the middle, i.e. series of relationships for as long as they sort of work and feel good. And I think that's where we have the opportunity in the church to model something different in a Christian community like this.
Sadly, some people also are faced with divorce. And someone emailed in and asked, what are your views on divorce, especially in the case where one person in the household has had an affair and does not want to reconcile? When is it time to let go, and how is best to go about this?
Can I tell you a story? This is from many years ago. I met a woman who was in her late 20s. She'd got married sort of mid-20s, and after a year of marriage, she was a Christian, and after about a year or 18 months of marriage, her husband had an affair and went off. And that was the end of the marriage. And she was absolutely devastated by it. And she felt that she couldn't go to church. She felt just ashamed of the fact that she was divorced and that her marriage had come to an end. And then she saw that at HTB we run a course which is called Recovering from Divorce and Separation. And she thought, if that church runs a course like that, then I can go to that church. She came, she did the course. It was a huge, huge help to her for healing from the trauma. She then went on to lead and to help on many of the courses of recovering from divorce and separation, and became a very important and special member of our community. And therefore, I want to say that because we want to embrace those who have been really hurt, because she, like many, she was suffering from a partner who went off. I would say to anybody, as we said to her, do everything you can to save your marriage. Work at it. We don't want you in years to come to have regrets, thinking, oh, if only I'd done this, only I'd done that, tried harder. But at the end of the day, it takes two. You cannot force the other person either to come back to you or to stay with you or to stop this affair or whatever it is.
And can I also add that, and this has been our experience of being involved in marriage for many, many years now, and the marriage course. The other side of that is, if one or maybe even both people in a marriage have an affair, that does not mean that that is the end of a marriage. And we know of many couples where an affair has happened, and it's looked pretty tough and bad, and it's like things aren't going to work. But actually, they have somehow both committed to seeing if they could make it work. And actually, we had one couple on the marriage course who, it was exactly what Nicky was saying. They'd been married for 24 years, 27?
26 years.
26 years, when they came to do the marriage course. And the only reason there'd been an affair, and the only reason they came to do the marriage course from the husband's perspective was because he was about to go to the divorce lawyers, and he felt, well, if we do the marriage course, that'll just kind of show that I've done everything I can to restore the marriage, but actually it's past restoring. And they came on the marriage course, and things completely turned around. And actually, it was the last session of the marriage course that really changed things for them. And they discovered again the reason why they first got together in the first place, the why they loved each other, what were the things they, first kind of were attracted to about each other. And that marriage was totally restored and healed and redeemed. They now have gone with one of our church plants and are heading up the marriage course, running the marriage course, the pre-marriage course, and all the other pastoral courses. And that's a totally redeemed story. And there are many, many, many stories of that. So don't feel that if there has been an unfaithfulness, a betrayal of trust like that, it can't be restored and healed. It can.
I think there's one other aspect to the one other answer to the question, which is, what do you do if you're in an abusive marriage? And we've known people where they've been in an abusive relationship, maybe physically, maybe psychologically. And again, we have sought to help them and sought to talk to the partner as well about what would it take to turn this marriage around. Because, of course, abuse is the opposite of what Pope John Paul II talked about, marriage being about the donation of self, the giving of the other, where it's an abusive relationship seeking to control, whether it's through physical or psychological means. Sometimes, if there is a refusal to change on the other person's part, then actually one person has to leave. And that may be for the protection of children. We've known that on occasion because this is a toxic environment for children, a very unhealthy and unhelpful one. Or sometimes for the protection of the person themselves, either from physical violence or from psychological abuse. That is absolutely as a last resort. But we must understand, we want marriages to last a lifetime, but we want marriages to be healthy and to last a lifetime.
From marriage, let's shake it up a bit and move to dating. Now, obviously, you don't want to be dating if you're married, so this is for the singles amongst us. But this is possibly my favorite email subject that I have ever received in all my life. It just said, dry humping. Oh my gosh, brilliant. What are your thoughts on dry humping?
I love the way
These guys aren't embarrassed by anything.
I love the way the language has changed over, how long have we been married?
41 years, darling. Yeah.
Why? What did you call it?
Not telling you,
Not
Kate.
telling you, but we know what it means. I mean, I think we have to start with a bit of our own story because you need to understand. I mean, we are old now. You probably think we haven't a clue about this stuff. I can assure you we do because Nicky and I met when we were very young. We met when we were teenagers. I was just 17. Nicky was 18. We met, fell in love, started going out after 2 weeks. And
I was actually 18 and a half, and I had a car. This was very significant.
Anyway, you've made me lose my
I'm so
train of
sorry, my darling.
What
We
was I
started going
talking
out. We
about?
fell in love. We
Oh,
started
yes.
going out.
And very key.
Does that help?
We
weren't
not
Christians.
We were not
Anything else?
Christians. Exactly. That is quite key.
The question was about triumphing.
I
Just to
know,
remind you.
I know. So, anyway, we started going out, and after about a year, we really felt that. Well, I felt absolutely this is the man I want to be with for the rest of my life. I just knew that, and as a result, we started sleeping together. And to us, that seemed like the most natural thing in the world because it was like my way of showing that this is the person I love the most. And it wasn't like I was kind of in lots of different relations. That this was the person that I wanted to be with. And that was my way of showing him that I loved him. And then after about 18 months of going out, we then started to hear about the Christian faith, about Jesus. Well, Nicky did, more to the point. Do you want to take it up from there?
Yeah, I started hearing, and I sort of figured that I was becoming more and more convinced that it was true, but I thought, if I become a Christian, we've got to stop sleeping together. And that was quite a challenge, because I thought, oh my goodness, if I become a Christian, and particularly if Sila doesn't, and we stop sleeping together, that could be the end of our relationship. So in my head, it was either God or Sila. And anyway, I think I prayed my first really honest, quite desperate prayer, which was, oh God, if you are there, would you please convince Sila as well? Because I don't know if I've got the strength or the willpower to go through this on my own. Anyway, so then I drag Sila along, get her to come and hear some of the talks that I'm hearing. She's much quicker. She's much more intuitive than I am. Takes me 6 months to get there. Takes Sila 24 hours to get there. But we both know that in giving our lives to Christ, this means stopping sleeping together, keeping sex for marriage. And, you know, of course, you'll understand we were deeply in love. This was a big challenge. But, and our fear was that if we stop sleeping together, we'll drift apart. But I think we'd understood enough that the gospel is about God's love. And somewhere we got the idea that God really does have the best for us. We thought we don't understand this, but we're going to give it our best shot. We gave our lives to Christ, and all we can say is that our experience was that far from drifting apart,
No, you didn't say the most important bit was that we gave our lives to Christ the very night we gave our lives to Christ. And I can assure you it was not a thing of the heart. It was not a thing of the mind. It was totally just the conviction of the Holy Spirit. Otherwise, we couldn't have done it. We stopped sleeping together. And I was absolutely distraught. I just thought, this is the end of it, because I love him. Who's this God who's somehow coming in between, pushing us apart, saying this is wrong? I love him, and all of this. But it was amazing. I thank God, actually, because it was the conviction of the Spirit. We didn't understand at all kind of why, but we just knew he wanted us to trust him, to stop sleeping together. And it was actually 2.5 years from that moment until we did get married. And all I wanted to say, we tell you this because 2.5 years is quite a long time to just keep what we then came to realize was the most precious gift that we have to give another person, which is to give them the deepest part of ourselves, our sexuality, and to give it in marriage. And that was quite a journey of discovery for us. And it wasn't easy, but it was really, really impactful for us in understanding about God's love. And that actually just giving in to your kind of for your own gratification, your own cravings, your kind of the sexual energy, the sexual drive, is not necessary in order to show love and to show commitment to someone, to show affection to someone, to show that you cherish them, that you put them, as a very important person. We learned a lot in those 2.5 years of how to change from just lusting after, I suppose, one another to loving one another in a kind of caring way. And also, I think it took a sort of intensity out of it, because actually if the uppermost thing in your relationship is sexual relationship, that's quite intense, and it can mask quite a lot of other parts of the relationship that should be growing and being nurtured and developed, and the friendship and all other sorts of things. So we learnt a lot, and I think in answer to the question, it's not helpful to be leading one another to a point of arousal that is actually properly and rightly for within marriage. Because God made us the way we are. He made us with, our sexuality, which is a good thing, but it's for the right place, the right context, the right place of commitment and protection. And it's a bit like, well, we use the analogy of, a fire, a forest fire out of control is pretty damaging. And our sexuality out of the right context can be damaging. And I think keeping our sexual desires in control for the right context is the best for everybody.
That's a beautiful answer, my darling. I love listening to that. To get very... I agree. To get very practical for a moment, we knew that we were going to keep sex for marriage, but it took us a little while just to learn to set some boundaries. For example, we discovered it wasn't helpful to lie down on a bed together without our clothes on. So we thought we got to step back from that a bit. And actually, it's all that Sila said. It was a process of learning. And so we set ourselves some boundaries. I don't sit here and pretend that we always kept within our boundaries, but actually those boundaries of learning what it was to not to lead each other on, to help each other. And you'll know that saying of Jesus, that verse where he says, if anyone causes one of these little ones who belong to me to sin, it would be better for them to have a millstone hung around their neck and cast into the depths of the sea. I thought, oh my goodness, Jesus is speaking directly to me. I'd only been a Christian about a few weeks. Do you know, that really hit me. I thought, I have a responsibility towards Sila as to what I do. Rather than leading her on, as she was talking about earlier, if I led her on, she'd lead me on, then I'd lead her on. Then if we went further than we'd planned, it wasn't my fault because she made me do it, that sort of thing. And reading that verse made me suddenly realize, goodness, I've got a responsibility to Sila to help her and her to me.
And also, I think the other thing, which today is a kind of, countercultural thing to say, but actually learning self-control is a hugely important part of just life and of relationships and of healthy relationships, healthy living. And it's right there as one of the fruit of the Holy Spirit. And I think we learned a lot about self-control, and actually it's not a bad thing, it's a really good thing. And it's self-control at every level, self-control in our mind, self-control physically and spiritually. And actually, in terms of sex, self-control is a terribly important thing to learn within a marriage, because any of us are open to the possibility of being attracted to someone other than our husband or wife, even when we're married. That's why affairs happen. And
well, we have to be married because we wouldn't have a husband and wife otherwise, my darling.
Oh, true. But, we still have to practice self-control within marriage at all sorts of levels and in every different situation. And that's a really, really important thing. So outside of marriage, it is equally possible and good and right and healthy to learn self-control. And our encouragement to any of you who are in a dating relationship, just think about what the precious gift of your sexuality is, and not to give it in a situation that is not the context of a committed, faithful, loving marriage relationship, because actually there is the potential for huge hurt, and you will regret it, is what we would want to say.
You said that you thought it was going to drive you apart, but in fact, what? You didn't finish that sentence.
I interrupted you.
No, with the best answer ever, I must say, because that was wonderful. I feel like you really got to the heart of the question there. But what were you going to say?
Well, I was going to say that over the next 2.5 years until we got married, we found a new depth to our relationship, a new depth to our friendship. As Sila said, I think part of that intensity had gone. We discovered more about other aspects of each other's life. And when we came to get married, and since, we've been profoundly grateful for those 2.5 years of preparation of our friendship growing.
Amazing.
And I think we discovered the truth. God really does have the best ways for us. He really loves us. He knows, he made us. He knows what's best and what's right.
Yeah, I love what you said, Scylla, about we had to learn to trust because he made it and he knows what he's doing. Talking about trust, there's a lot of parents in the room, and you have to trust God with your kids as they go off. And we had a few questions in about speaking to your kids about sex. And so if you're sat next to your mum or dad right now, just get ready to be embarrassed, you know. The questions included things like, should we talk to our kids about sex? And if so, what age is appropriate? How do we do it? How do we go about it? Sex, masturbation, pornography, internet, Snapchat. I'm just going to leave that there and let you talk.
Yeah. I'm going to answer this one. I'm going to start anyway. The answer we would say is yes. This is one of the greatest responsibilities we have as parents. And yet I also want to say to any parents out there, do not think that this is easy for any parent. It is not. You are not unusual in thinking, how do I do this? Or, oh no, I just don't. I think I'll just leave that to everybody else. Don't leave it to everybody else, because actually only you can pass on the values that you have about sex and the God-given truth about our sexuality and how sex is a good and a beautiful gift, but in the right context. And so our encouragement would be to you as parents. We tried to do this with our children, and I mean, we did it at moments, I think, terribly badly. Other moments it seemed to be more successful. But, over 18 years, because you've got to look at the long term, you need to start just right from the beginning and do it. It's a kind of not a one big talk and then it's all done. Phew, we don't need to do anything else. It's like a drip feed method of passing on your values, your beliefs, your views about sex and sexuality. And you just have to look out for the opportunities. And, when they're 3, 4, 5, you don't need to give them the whole 9 yards. You just give them a couple of sentences, because that's all they're asking. Where do babies come from? They're only 3 and you've got to sit down and tell them the whole thing. No, you don't. You don't need to. You just say a couple of things like, a baby grows in mummy's tummy. Daddy gives mummy a baby and it grows in the mummy's tummy for 9 months and then you see the baby. Fine. Off they go and they're playing with their, Lego, and that's fine. You do not need to do anything else. But you have to have your antennae up all the way through for those moments and those opportunities. And I would say it'll come sooner than you think. And you need to prepare your children because, particularly something like pornography. Pornography is everywhere. And very different from when we were, it was, obviously the internet was just starting when our kids were growing up, but now with the accessibility of getting stuff online and on phones and on etc. is huge. So you have to start to talk with your kids about this. And I would say, read a book yourself. There are good books written by Christians about the damage that pornography does. There's one that we have in the UK called Confronting Porn by probably the leading expert on the impact and effect of pornography today. And she's a Christian, but she's very, very respected in the secular world. And she's written this book, Confronting Porn. And it's, get acquainted with the impact of pornography. Equip yourself with the information. And do not think that if you talk to your kids about it, it's going to mean that they then want to rush off and watch lots of porn. It's like drugs. Just because you talk to your kids about drugs doesn't mean they're going to go running off and take drugs. It's much better to be equipped, to be informed as a parent, and to then seek to pass on the values. But do it in small, what's the word? Small stages. Bits. It doesn't have to be everything all at the same time. Do you do you want to add more?
We've got a daughter and 3 sons, and I was very conscious with our 3 sons when they start the sort of time when they were going to be exposed to pornography. And I knew I couldn't stop them being exposed because of all the stuff that was being shown and passed around at school. And it was trying to gauge the right moment. As Sila said, if you've got a 5-year-old, you probably don't need to talk to them then. But by the time they're sort of moving up through the sort of 9, 10-year-olds, they're starting to be exposed to this stuff. And I remember with one of our sons, it was going to be wasn't going to be an easy talk, and I was trying to work out how to do it. And one day I went to pick him up, I think it was, from some sporting event in the car. And it was dark when we were driving back. And I thought, I won't start at the beginning of the journey, because it's quite a long journey, and he might not want to sustain it all the way home. So I started the conversation about 10 minutes from home. And it was actually very helpful being in the car, because, of course, we were both looking forwards. Didn't have to sort of eyeball each other. And we got home, I parked the car, and we stayed sitting in the car for about 30 minutes, just talking. It was a very, and you know, it was, I was very grateful for him sort of opening up and talking about what he felt and so on, because not only was it an opportunity to talk about the values and things that Sila was saying we need to pass on, but it also brought us closer and talking about something that was starting to be a real pressure for him.
I also think, you know, we mustn't be afraid as parents to talk about our own experiences in order to help our children to learn, and maybe where we got it wrong. I mean, I was quite a rebellious teenager, and I thought my parents had very old-fashioned views. And I mean, my parents were absolutely great, but they didn't do talking about sex at all. I learned everything I know about sex not from my parents, which is not the way to do it. I learned from a friend.
We still managed to have 4 children, so
I
eventually got there.
I learned from a friend at school who was 9. She knew a very weird version of sex. And then, you know, that it went on, learning from all the wrong places. But anyway, so my parents were quite strict. And I remember going off to a party. It was a kind of like outdoor barbecue thing, aged about 13. And I went with a kind of bare midriff and very short skirt. And I remember going and get in the car, and my father saw me, and he just lost it and got so angry. And he said, "You are not going like that," you know. But he didn't give me any explanation as to why. And he made me go and get a blouse to put on and all the rest. Anyway, when I got to the party, I took it off. And as one does. And but you know, this party, the parents of the people whose party it was were there, and I remember the dad chasing me round behind a barn and trying to really do something not very nice to me. I managed to escape, which was fine, but it really shook me. And I suddenly realized why my father got cross. But it would have helped if my father had helped me to know why it wasn't really appropriate to go to a party like that, looking like that. And, you know, so I remember talking to our daughter about, you know, how we have to think about the way we dress, to think about what we're projecting, to think about how we have to think about other people and the difference between, you know, boys and girls and men and women, all that stuff. We have to help our kids learn these things. And yeah, it's challenging, but honestly, don't leave this responsibility to other people. But get help, read up, get sort of support and help and things. There's lots of stuff out there to help to pass on. But it's values, it's your values that you need to pass on, because they're not going to get those in school, in, you know, any of the stuff that they'll learn from other people. Oh, and sorry, we because there was one other thing was about Snapchat.
Snapchat.
Now, we are totally not up to speed on that, because we don't have kids in that age now. But I know, Miles,
Miles, come on.
Are.
It's your moment.
Miles.
We've started to call Miles Siri. Siri, because he can answer any question quicker than Siri. So, Miles, come on the sofa.
What's the question?
We didn't warn him of this.
I've no idea. What is the question?
question is about
Snapchat. We want to
Snapchat
know the
and-
legalities of Snapchat. So for kids in the room and youth in the room, but also for parents, just being aware of that.
Well, I think the first thing I'd say is that, they used to talk about people having a digital footprint, but now they call it a digital tattoo. So whatever you put out there on social media, it's there for life. And, I know somebody who nearly didn't get the job interview he went for because he didn't realize that the person that was going to be interviewing him at this company went through all of his social media back years and years and years and found something that he'd put once on Facebook. And so, first of all, what you put out there really think twice about whatever you put out there. But also what you receive, you've got to be aware of what your children might be receiving. And you need to talk to them about the responsibilities. So, for example, on Snapchat, if let's say your child receives something on Snapchat that is inappropriate, that is, say, illegal, maybe an image that is illegal, maybe of a minor, first of all, number one, they mustn't share it with anyone, because what they've essentially received is illegal goods. And it'd be like me getting illegal goods and passing it on to others. So they mustn't share it with anybody else in their social networks. But even if they get it on a phone, they mustn't say, hey, look what she sent me. Because the minute, even if you just do that, you've shared something illegal. So they mustn't share it, number one. And then number two, they have a duty to report it. Because again, if it then eventually comes out and you had received it and not reported it, then you're sort of aiding and abetting, really. So it's really important that you do talk to your children about social media, because these are just aspects of parenting that, even 10 years ago weren't really there. And now we just need to... And I think like you were saying, same with sex, not the big, heavy chat, but a little and often. But so... really think about what you're putting out there, because it's a digital tattoo. It doesn't go away. Number two, never share if you receive something inappropriate. And number three, report it. Was that okay?
Thank you, Miles. And we only have about 2 minutes left, but I think what'll be really good, we got a few questions on friendships and fueling friendship. And do you know what? We're so blessed to have these guys here, because I know that you've just lived a life doing ministry with your best friends. And so how do you get best friends like that? How should we be investing in our friendships? Give us a vision for friendship.
Well, the number one thing is time. I mean, that's true for friendship and a marriage. You've got to set aside time to be together, to have fun together. A marriage won't grow, your friendship won't grow. And it's the same with our friendships in life. And our experiences, we have to put time in our calendar with people. And you can't build deep relationships with hundreds of people. You can connect sort of on social media with hundreds of people, but you can't form deep relationships with hundreds of people. You can only form deep relationships with a few people. And it's so significant, isn't it? Jesus had 12 disciples. It was 12 disciples that he spent time with, invested in. And he said to them, everything I've learned from the Father, I've made known to you. He was open with them. And that's what builds friendship at the end of the day. It's choosing a smaller group, making ourselves, being increasingly open. You talked earlier, Sila talked, and you talked about trust. Friendships are built on trust. As we get to know people, as we discover these people are trustworthy, we can trust them with our sort of, deeper and deeper parts of ourselves, our secrets, that they're for us, they're with us. This is how friendships are built. And we've had the huge privilege and joy of building friendships like this with people that we've been in ministry with, people. And actually, for us, it goes back to those whom we were with in our early 20s, well, teenagers and early 20s, some that we were at university with, are still some of our closest friends.
And actually, one of the loveliest things is that when we first started going to HTB, which was a very long time ago, 1977, when we had just, very soon after we became Christians, really, we went, when Nicky had finished at university, I was still at college in London. And we started going to HTB, 1977. And we were in, I think it was literally the very first Connect group at HTB with Sandy Miller, and then Nicky Gumbel, and Ken Costa, and
Justin Welby.
Justin Welby, who's now the Archbishop of Canterbury, and just a number of people. And, you know, being in a Connect group, we really got to know each other very well. And we had so much fun together. And obviously the painful bit is when the Connect group got so big that Sandy said to us, we need to divide and we need to start other Connect groups. And so Nicky and I took the first one out of that. And it was like, oh, we don't get to be with our friends every week. You know, we had to go with a different group. And, but actually we still kept, getting together then with a fewer number from that original Connect group. And actually, with some of them, we have continued in friendship for all these years, and it's been amazing. But we do, I think today, again, it's so hard because we all live in a global village. We can all just communicate with hundreds of people across the world. We can actually even travel, anywhere remarkably easily. And it's very easy to kind of just hop, looking for the next new kind of thing. And, oh, gosh, this thing of FOMO, fear of missing out. Oh, if I don't go to that, I'm going to miss out. And actually what we end up doing is missing out on the friendships and the building and investing in the friendships that are right where we are. And actually we spent many times, then obviously we got married and started having kids. And actually we invested a lot of our time in saying, we're going to spend weekends together with these particular people, or even go on holiday with these particular people who we were close friends with, because we wanted to build and deepen those friendships. And what's really special is now that our kids, who were, they just had to come along for the ride with our other friends, and then, all our kids sort of muddled along together. And we didn't force them to be friends, but actually now they have amazing friendships because they kind of just grew up with this thing of, these are friends, we are all in this together. And that's been incredibly special too. So I think just encouraging you to take the time, find things that you enjoy doing together, but be in Connect groups too together, and then you will build friendship.
And if I can pick up something Sila said, experiences, exciting new experiences, traveling and so on, do not replace friendship. At the end of the day, life is about our relationships. It's not about the number of places we've been to. It's not about what we have. Life is about our relationship with God and our relationship with other people. And that's where we need to invest ourselves, our time, our energy, and so on.
Thank you so much, Nicky and Sila. Shall we show our appreciation? Stay, yeah. We have talked about all sorts of things, and we'd love it if you guys could pray for us and lead a ministry time. Just let the Holy Spirit move and maybe continue to speak to us on some of the stuff that you've already started. So, guys, over to you.
Shall we stand? When we were worshiping earlier, I was thinking about how it's through our relationship with God that He heals our hearts. None of us have had a perfect childhood. Our parents, many of them have done the very best that they can. They loved us. But none of us have had a perfect childhood. All of us carry a certain amount of hurt from the past. And some, of course, have had a very difficult, maybe even abusive childhood. And we carry a lot of hurts and scars. And it is through our relationship with God, through discovering His unconditional love, that our hearts are healed. And that's a process. It's a healing process where we discover we are lovable because we experience God's love. We realize we can trust. We can trust God, and that helps us to start trusting other people. And I believe tonight, God, by his Spirit, wants to do some healing work amongst us. I don't know what that's going to mean. I think for some of you, it might mean just bringing to God some pain from the past. For some of you, it might mean forgiving someone who has hurt you in the past, because it's as we forgive those who've hurt us, we know God's total forgiveness of everything that we've done. And as we do these things, as we come to God and as we receive his spirit of love, our hearts are healed, and this is what equips us in our own relationships. I'm sure there'll be other things as well, but I believe that God wants to do that. And so I'm going to suggest that we stand just to receive from the Lord, and you might want to hold your hands out before you. I remember somebody saying they held their hands out because they wanted to increase the surface area on which God could come. I thought it was a lovely reason. But generally, it's just being in a receptive mode to God. If we're like this, it's, I dare you, God, to come close. It's, Lord, I want to receive from you everything that you've got for me tonight. And the Lord is here. He's the God who loves us. He loves us so much. He gave his only Son for each one of us, that we might have life with him. And Lord, we thank you so much. Thank you.